Everyone has a story, and I believe that sharing your story has the power to connect people. I'm a working mom, wife, and seeker, and nothing lights me up and brings me more joy than having meaningful conversations. And one of the things I love to talk about is psychedelics. In December 2021, I experienced my first psychedelic journey with psilocybin. It was one of the most profound events in my life, and it opened me up to a deeper spiritual growth and helped me to heal. And now, talking to those who've experienced the therapeutic magic of psychedelics and hearing about their personal journey has become my passion. Mindful Trip is a safe space to have conversations that demystify and destigmatize the use of plant medicines. Conversations that allow us to have deeper connections with ourselves and others. I hope that sharing these intimate, funny, and inspiring stories helps you find the answers you're looking for. A wise friend said to me, "All you can do is follow the threads and see where it takes you." So I hope you'll join me in unraveling the threads, staying open, and trusting the journey. This is Mindful Trip. Mindful Trip content and the views, thoughts, and opinions of the host, guests, and contributors is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional legal advice or medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Consult with the medical provider or mental health care professional about your health-related questions. Mindful Trip does not encourage illegal activity, including but not limited to the illegal sale, purchase, or use of controlled substances. Hi, and thanks for joining. Today, my guest Summer Jean is here to share how her deep connection to psilocybin helped her redefine faith, overcome difficult personal struggles, and the not-so-subtle message she received from the spirit of ayahuasca. Summer Jean is the owner of Agami Karma Therapy and a multi-talented professional dedicated to empowering individuals to remove obstacles, old memories and emotions, and reframe thoughts and programs in order to heal trauma, child wounding, and deep fears. As both the mother of 4 and an integrative psychotherapist and life coach, Summer seamlessly blends Western psychology and Eastern philosophy to empower her clients. Your support means a lot, so please subscribe, download, and share with friends and family. I'd also love to hear what resonates for you, so send me your comments.
Hi, Min.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for today.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you. I'm really excited to have you share your story and to get to know you better and your journeys that have been so impactful for you. So let's get started. Share with me what I need to know about you to understand what was the catalyst for you to begin exploring psychedelics.
The catalyst is that I have this unquenching thirst to understand the psyche and the spirit. And that started at a very young age of trying to understand how it all fits, the cosmos and the stars. And there isn't one thing that I can point to other than I've always just been extremely curious and have always caught the bigness in which universe and spirit just is. Like, it always questioning into how nature is nature. So always digging a little deeper than what was right in front of us, so beyond what a pastor was saying, beyond what the human words were. So psychedelics take us to that point, and I started experiencing, as a teenager. So it's like you kind of start turning that on early.
Did you grow up in a spiritual household or a religious background? What was your upbringing like?
Religiously, it was really confusing. I was raised up until the time my parents were divorced, going to a Mormon church. And then I was raised with a very strict Irish Catholic grandmother, where she would have us kneel on our knees and say a prayer every day, every evening. She was just really strict in her rituals, but also very contradictory because she was an alcoholic. I grew up
Mm,
in that dysfunction of Irish Catholic alcoholism.
mm,
So that's where it was confusing because religiously things didn't add up. And then I also had
mm,
friends that were Christians. So you would be invited to go to like youth nights and you'd get a little bit of different taste. And then my granny on my father's side was very natural. They were raising me through the Baptist. So we'd
mm.
have that language, but also a bigger spirituality. So just different context of things were always confusing to me.
I mean, I would find that confusing. I mean, 3 different types of religions, Mormon,
Hmm.
Catholic, and then Baptist. I mean, 3 very different types of religions and the way they view God and life and everything else. So how did that affect
Yeah.
you as you were growing up, being exposed to 3 different types of religions and feeling that they were contradictory and most likely wasn't
Hmm.
really resonating for you?
Yeah, I rejected the idea of God. I didn't
Mm,
believe in it. So, when my mom remarried, I'm going to put another religion in there. My stepdad was Methodist. So we'd
oh my
go down to
gosh.
the Methodist church. And
Mm.
man, I love stainless glass though. So the glass in the churches were beautiful. But
Yeah.
I rejected God. I started saying I don't believe in God, but I believe that there's
Mhm.
something more. And I couldn't ever say what that more was. I believe we're part of something bigger, but I didn't have the language as a teenager. Um, and I started having my own spiritual experiences without medicine that was part of that bigness.
So that's so interesting, New Zealand. New Zealand is known for the indigenous culture and it's Maori.
Yeah,
And I don't know if I'm
Maori.
pronouncing it correctly, but they're
Mhm.
very connected to the earth. They're connected to the cosmos,
Yeah, they have an
grounded.
ancestry that is
Yeah.
pure. I was coming from a place that lacked this legacy, this ancestry, so it's like I knew I was Irish,
Mm,
but and so I could follow roots back to Ireland because my great
right.
grandparents came from Ireland, but still there wasn't a culture there that, so it's still that deep rooted ancestry and the stories that come with it. And for
Mhm.
me, the Maori culture was that. And it was so based within the natural elements
Mhm.
that, yeah, it really turned something on. Again, without the need of psychedelics at that point.
Right. So when was the first time that you tried psychedelics?
My first experience, well, marijuana, THC, but acid, I did my first acid trip when I was 15 years old.
Mm,
And that was wild because it turned on colors. And so I'm very based in Montana where it's Native American culture.
mm,
A lot of Crow agency is right by us. So that was wild to connect. Like when I was a little girl, I used to pretend that I was an Indian girl and we'd go live in the rims and I'd bathe in the water puddles after rain.
mm.
And so my first experience with acid was really turned on the colors of nature and I got to connect with my elements here that are very Native American based.
And so did you feel like that was the gateway for you to start to explore other psychedelics or other plant medicines?
Yeah. What I'm trying to think is, was it marijuana or was it the acid trip? And
Mm,
I would for sure say that acid trip turned on the ability that things aren't what they seem to be.
mhm.
They just aren't. There's things beyond our visual perception that can come alive. So,
Absolutely. I think for someone who's never done plant medicines or psychedelics, when you do them, you realize how we're all connected and that
yeah, that
veil is
was,
so thin. You really do feel this kind of portal opening up where you are really fully connected to source, spirit, the
mhm,
higher dimensions, whatever
yeah.
quantum physics wants to label it, right? You feel it in your body. It's a full body experience when you're in a psychedelic journey, but there's just a knowing when you're in it that you're like, yes, we are all connected. This is not something that I'm making up. It's not a part of my imagination, the
Hmm.
experience.
Very much so. That first psychedelic trip with acid, being outside, watching the sunrise. Then I remember
Mm,
going back, and the place that I was staying had a scarab beetle in like
mm,
a three-dimensional frame. So it was an actual beetle. And just going back to Egyptians, I could always
mm,
put together again that the ancestry, the
right.
bigness of the Mayan culture and all these different cultures that we are all a part of. And that scarab beetle, literally
Mm,
the colors, and that was a deeper connection of going, man, there's so much more wisdom than what God is. Like, what is that? To me, it wasn't the religious form of Mormon, Catholic, Methodist, Baptist. That just wasn't doing
right.
it. So I had to
Right.
denounce any of that for a while. I mean, I've come back
Mm.
to, and now I call it God, but I couldn't even use the terms as a teenager and through my 20s.
So even with that LSD experience and the scarab beetle, did you feel like you were connected to some of these ancient civilizations because there was a possibility that maybe you had lived, and I don't even know if you believe in past lives or reincarnation, but did you feel
Sure.
a very strong kind of connection and pull thinking that maybe there's a possibility that you actually had lived some of your lives in these specific ancient civilizations and indigenous cultures?
Not quite that at that point. It more
Mhm.
turned on this curiosity and
Mm,
that unquenchable thirst of there's something more,
right.
So at that point, not yet.
Not yet.
Just this connection that is way beyond what most people can grasp or even want to look at. Like, it's
Right.
that illusion versus disillusion, the bigness of what nature is and how far back that goes.
So after this
Mm-hmm.
first LSD journey, when was your next psychedelic experience that had a profound impact on you?
Mm-hmm. I would say that with psilocybin, and psilocybin was
Mhm.
always different for me because it was such a somatic body
Mm,
feeling. Acid was a different headspace, but psilocybin is such a heart space, you know? So, yeah, from that point on, a lot was psilocybin and acid here
mm,
and there. But yeah, just that again, connecting with the stars. I always needed to be outside. There's something
mm,
about it. I couldn't be inside in those experiences.
mm.
So it always take me to nature, parks, walks, stars. Hmm.
Can you share one psilocybin experience that really left a lasting imprint on you?
Oh man, from my earlier years.
It could be earlier or even more recent.
Oh man,
What's that
that's a good one
experience like?
because there's a lot of them, but I'd say most recent, there was a big events. So I was going through a separation. I was selling my house. I was moving to a new town an hour away. My therapy practice, it was kind of a traumatic way to end it. So I was
Mm,
really just in the storm, my own dark night of the soul. And I did a
yeah.
macro dose of psilocybin and sat in my hot tub. And I lived in a small mountain town, so the mountain range was right there. And I started right at sunset and into dusk. And I was in the hot tub for probably 4 hours and I was just naked. It's
Mm,
isolated, so there's nobody there. So just sitting with me, my body. And it took me back to one of the times when I was a teenager and looking at the
mm,
stars. And it was back into this overwhelming sense that is all good. It's all okay.
mm,
You can always tap into the breath that is the universal breath. And for
right.
me, that is so calming to just be with what is, knowing that there's cycles. And so it's this reminder that all is as it should be. Just breathe.
Mm,
there's no need to resist, just trust that
Right.
humans have been doing this for since the beginning of time.
Right.
Most religious text. So
That's
that
true.
overwhelming sense. And then just listening to, there was a story that was going on through the birds because as nighttime came, different birds came out and bats came out and
Mm.
the stars changed. And it's like I was watching this storyline of the cosmos with that overwhelming sense of you are part of something bigger. That's it. That's all we have to know. And for me, it's always this exhale and reassurance of don't get in your head, like get out of your head of it.
Right. Was
Hmm.
your journey during this experience, were you also seeing visuals or were you also receiving messages and downloads from
Hmm.
your higher
Yeah.
self, your guides,
Yeah.
spirit? Can you give us
Yeah.
a little bit of
100%.
detail of some of the visuals and some of the messages that you're receiving?
Hmm. So the visuals for me, it was the clouds. So just watching the clouds of just pure nature of the
Mhm.
background setting was the Beartooth Range. And then the clouds tell its own story. But the downloads that I was receiving, I'm writing a book right now and I'm getting ready to do a TED Talks. And so from that experience, it was this immense download of what this message is that is not mine, but is coming through me. And
Mhm.
so after the experience, obviously, I'm kind of writing down all the insights. But it was that. It was what I now am having this message to call on that is beyond me, that makes sense of all of my past and my
Mm.
studies and my experiences. So, yeah, it was profoundly clear in the language and the message of what will be coming through me through talking, speaking, book writing.
And what were some of the shapes of the clouds that they were taking? Could you make out clearly what the images and the shapes were from the clouds as you were in this psilocybin experience?
Yeah, it was a dance. It wasn't
Mhm.
like a certain thing, but it was a dance of how shapes would move with each other. And again,
Mm.
the sounds of the birds. And it's like I was watching the cosmos itself on stage. So I
Mm.
couldn't put it to anything. Our mind naturally looks for faces. We naturally see a happy face, a sad face, all of that. But, for me, I know that. So
Right.
it was just the dance of how the wind would blow and throw a cloud one way and how it would build back up. And it was just a dance that I was watching, this ballet performance of
Mhm.
nature itself.
Mhm.
So I can't say it was one thing other than it was just this performance of the cosmos itself and the way
Wow.
the clouds would part. And then you would see Orion. At the time, there was still Orion was up. So in one part it was Orion, and in one part it was this immense Milky Way. And then the clouds would come in again. It's like the curtains would close and it would open up. And
Mm.
so just a dance of this amazing performance from the colors of the sunset to this pure dark night of the moon,
Mm.
right? So,
Mhm.
and that was
I mean, it
something that I
sounds
could thread back to New Zealand and two other experiences of going, whoa, I
right.
can only imagine being in the Egyptian times when the temples are completed and you're looking up at
Right.
the temple at Orion. And for me, Orion is extremely powerful. So no
Me
matter
too.
where I was, I can imagine that constellation with,
Yeah,
you know.
me too. That's so funny that you say Orion is so powerful for you. I'm curious,
Mhm.
this is probably off topic, but do you have freckles or beauty marks or moles like in a row on your body somewhere?
Not that I am aware of. No, but now I kind of
That's
want to
such a
look.
such a strange question. I'll probably cut this,
Yeah.
but because I have 3 freckles under my left eye, and I've had several people say, one of my friends in particular, when we first met, we just, like, connected immediately, and the first thing she noticed was that I had these freckles, and she's like, "That's Orion," like, when you connect the dots,
Wow. Ooh, that just gave
and
me chills, Mindy.
yeah, and she has it on her leg. So she's like, I'm
Mm,
always meeting and connecting with other people who have the three. So I was just
yeah.
curious when you said Orion, I was like, ooh, I wonder if she has three somewhere on her body that maybe she's aware of or not aware of.
I'm going to ask my partner to look at my back.
Yeah, you just never know. So how did you integrate after this experience? Was it something that you needed to integrate, or you felt like it was just a really beautiful experience? You felt connected?
No, I mean, again, I was going through such a dark night of the soul through my
Mm,
personal life. And there was such a big transition going on,
mhm.
an ending in my relationship and the life that I knew out of nowhere. Like it was
Yeah.
unexpected. All of a sudden, I was moving my kids, my family, my
Mm,
private practice, my identity. I'd lived in that town for 13 years, and all of a sudden,
wow.
it had just crashed, and I didn't know. So
Mm,
I went to the medicine and received this profound reassurance that it all
mm,
is good. Trust,
mm.
trust.
Trust.
And I kept hearing faith over fear, faith over fear. And
Mhm,
it really brought me into what is faith. And it was watching this performance of the
mm,
cosmos and going, okay, God knows. I don't need to know. I just need to breathe. And when I can breathe
mm.
with the universe, there's a universal sound that comes in nature that
Yeah.
you're breathing with. It was this profound reassurance that it's okay. It's good. Just
Mm,
be, just flow with it. Don't be in your mind. Don't
mm,
resist it. Don't even believe the fear. The fear will come up. The faith is bigger. The cosmos are
mm,
bigger. You're a part of that. And I can put it through civilizations and my experiences through my whole life. And then I began receiving the downloads of what this message is that I call the 4 V's that I will begin speaking on stage. And again, I've written a TED Talks that I'm going to go on to TED Talks and share. And then I'm writing a book on it. And it's huge. It's big with the work that I do. And so,
What are the 4
yeah.
V's? Can you give us a little tease?
Yeah, I can. I can't go too much because my TED Talks isn't public yet, but the 4 V's is values, virtues, victories, and vision.
Mm,
And when you put those together, it is the beginning point of coming back into mind, body, soul alignment. And people
mm,
are missing that. Like we've been in a spiritual void for many years. People are missing connection with spirit and nature. And
mhm,
we're starting to come back into that, but people don't know where to begin. And so when I'm working with my own clients and my own psychotherapy practice, and I ask, what are your virtues? It is amazing to me that people are like, what are virtues?
mm.
Well, what's your highest value? Well, I don't know. And we have to spend sessions in that space. And then
Yeah.
the victories are this ability to say, I did it. It's your victory moment of, I did that. And that gets us out of our default network. And it brings us into this sense of self honoring. It's an honoring
Mm,
process of, man, I worked hard and I did it. And it's not
right.
seeking outside, it's being able to do that for yourself. And then visions is all of the things within manifestation, all of the things within the energetic quantum field of being able to bring that into the heart space and use imagination. And to me, imagination is God. To me, we are
Mm,
creators. And some people don't know how to turn on imagination. So the 4 V's kind of works through. And when you have them all together, that is the alignment in which we are in connection with our highest self while we're working on that vertical plane on the horizontal field, right? So
mhm.
that was all the downloads that was so clear. And it's still so clear.
I'm getting chills. How did your mindset
Mhm.
shift after this profound experience, especially as you were in the throes of this personal crisis that you were going through?
It shifted into what do I need to, it, I had to clarify again what faith was to me. What is
Mm,
that thing that I'm trusting? If I'm not resisting and I'm not going to give into the fear that was overwhelming at times,
right.
not knowing what I was doing next in my life when I had been so
Mhm,
secure in my private practice, in my life, in my family, in my relationship, that I needed to get really secure in my faith of the
Mm.
cosmos, of what that was, and flow with it, and that I had work to do. So that was the
Mm.
point that was like, all right, girl, you've got work to do,
Mm-hmm.
and God is behind you. Actually,
Mm.
God is moving you. So this message is moving through you.
Right.
So get to work and just have faith, flow with it.
How did you redefine faith during this time period?
So I redefined it as a deep, profound trust in the unknown, knowing we don't have to know. So you have to really, really know what God is and really know what the thread is that you fall back on and go, it's okay. It's good.
Yeah.
Of I am that I am. And it's like when
Mm.
I'm working with that mantra, what is that? You
Right.
better know what that is. So I am that I am, and repeating that over and over and over. Faith is the same thing of that knowing of what is that?
Mm-hmm.
All capitals. What is I am? What is Om? There's a universal sound that is I am that I am, and a deeper connection that is undeniable. And so
Yeah.
when you really tap in and get beyond that, the ego, the aspects of our personality, it doesn't even need to exist there.
Right.
It just doesn't have a place there. It's like you go into the heart space, in the authentic soul space, that when you're really in the soul journey of it all, that's the unknown. That's the thing that
Mm.
you put trust into. And that is the thing that is a part of the cosmic soul that is universal spirit, right? Source energy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's that finding of self.
So, as you're moving through this difficult time in your life and processing what you received from your psilocybin journey, have you delved into other psychedelics or other plant medicines? Because your face
Yeah.
lights up when you talk about psilocybin. So, I'm just wondering
Hmm.
if that's your plant that you really connect with, or if there's
Yeah.
another one that you've connected with in the past or even more recently that you felt
Hmm.
like also
Yeah.
gave you some profound insights.
Yeah. I love that you asked that. I've journeyed with ayahuasca, and my fourth journey with Aya, she profoundly, very clear was saying, you don't need this medicine. You
Mm.
don't need to be in this space. You live in this space. Psilocybin is your medicine. And I
Oh,
kept seeing visions of Santa Maria. So seeing the vision of the grandmother of psilocybin, I believe the birth mother of
yeah.
psilocybin. And as Maria was coming to me, there's just such a profound smile and laughter. And she
Mm.
kept saying, you already know. That was like almost 3 years ago now. I didn't
Mhm.
really get that. So a
Mm.
time had to happen for me to make sense of what that fourth, third, second, and first journey was with ayahuasca.
Right.
But now I know.
That's so interesting because I picked up on it right away. The way that you were talking about marijuana and then LSD, but then the minute that you started talking about psilocybin, your whole being and your whole face
Yeah.
just completely lit up when you were talking about your psilocybin journey. So I was
Yeah.
like,
I feel
yeah,
like
I
that
was,
medicine really uses me. It's just such an honor. It's just so cool,
yeah.
you know? Hmm.
I mean, it was funny because I was thinking in my mind as I was watching your face, I was thinking either she's just super connected to psilocybin and that is her jam. That plant medicine
Hmm.
resonates for her, or she's just really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and I've gone through the MAPS training for MDMA, and
Mm.
I've done different trainings, but psilocybin, I can't explain it. It's the cosmos. It's just that nature connection. It just is
Right.
that heart space. So yeah.
How has it been for you as a clinician who has experienced these different plant medicines and psychedelics, and then bringing that knowledge and experience into what you do with your clients?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. I believe that we have the answers within us, and psychedelics is not for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and should not be, the message should not be put out there that it is for everybody. The
Right.
psyche is very fragile and it can only take so much. And we have all of that within us, but most people do not have the discipline or the fortitude to get to the place that psychedelics can just rapidly put us in.
Right.
So, it's a miss. So I work in non-ordinary states of consciousness with people without medicine
Mm.
and teach them how to go within and teach them how to get beyond that ego and teach them how to be in the hypnagogic states that medicine can put us in, right? Open up different
Mm-hmm.
parts of the brain and the network systems. But it's still so slow going, and there's still stopping points that some people just can't ever get around their own parts.
Right.
That takes a lot of time. So I believe we can get there without medicine, but the medicine just does such a rapid opening place where people have those insights in the somatic experience. And when
Mm-hmm.
we go back into psilocybin, it's so loving and softening, and there's a motherly warmth to it. You know what I mean? It's slower,
Yeah.
it's gentle, and there's a wave that we ride. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I do believe majority of my clients, we work in this similar spaces, and I always believe that the medicine is holding me anyway. I'm always tapping into it. So through
Right.
me, it comes, like, I just believe that the medicine is very connected to me. So,
Yeah, I believe that too. I really believe that, whether you do psilocybin or ayahuasca or any of the other plant medicines and psychedelics, is that once you've done them, it is in you. So
mhm,
if you've only done it once or twice, it still is actually in you and you are connected and you have a relationship with that particular medicine. Grandmother ayahuasca or psilocybin, wachuma, ibogaine.
mhm.
I don't even know the whole list and breadth of the different types of plant medicines out there. That's also my personal experience, but also just speaking to so many people who have done different journeys and how even if they haven't done it in years, they still feel very
Mhm.
connected to it. And all these,
Yeah, and you
I
can
really believe
ask.
absolutely you can ask. And I feel like
Yeah.
all these plant medicines are highly intuitive, just very intuitive.
For me with psilocybin, it's the network. And so it's like when you go outside just into your grass without shoes, you're
Mm,
connecting into this ground network of roots. And that to me is very similar to the neurotransmitters and the way that our brain is made up. And so
right.
I can tap into that within the
Yes.
receptors of the heart, within the receptors of the roots of Mother Earth. And
Mm-hmm.
because I've done so much work in integrating it, it just becomes who you are. It's your presence, it's your
Yeah.
energy, it's your spirit. So I really trust that that is part of the guide in the sessions that I do. But I also work with breath and meditation and all of the layers. So it's really special.
It's interesting when you were talking about the network and the connection. The first image that popped into my head was I don't know if you've seen any of those James Cameron movies, the Avatar films, but
Mm-mm, I don't
visually,
think so.
they're able to kind of recreate that connection
Mm,
with all of the trees and the roots and how the roots continue and extend and how it's all connected. And I don't know
mm-hmm,
if I'm correct, but I know that with magic mushrooms, psilocybin, is that the mycelium is that we are actually more genetically connected to mycelium than anything else on this planet. And I don't know if that's correct. I feel like I read that or I heard that somewhere. It was such a light bulb moment for me. It was kind of like, of course it is. And then you
yeah,
then
it's
you
just so
understand,
cool.
right, why we're all so connected. And especially if you have done psilocybin,
Mm-hmm,
you immediately understand. You're like, of course we're connected. Of
mm-hmm,
course. And it has this memory. It has
Yeah.
the memory to help us remember who we are as well. It's like a fast track to opening up these portals. But I also believe that these medicines, anytime you do them, whether you're microdosing or macrodosing, it is there to remind you of who you are and to also remind you that you have the capacity to be able to connect beyond the veil. However way
Yes,
you want to do it,
100%.
whether it's through the medicines or whether it's through breath work or some other modality. I really believe that. And so each time you do it, it's just a continual reminder. It's like the layers pull back.
And for me, it's reaching the point where you are the medicine, that you don't need the reminder. It just is how you've lived an embodied life now. And from that place, that space, that's where the magic is we need the reminders, but then all of a sudden you don't need the reminder. You just are.
Yeah.
And that, oh, that's profound. And I have this vision of like Plato's Republic through his utopian society. And through the four V's, I come back with this greater utopian society of, man, could you imagine if everybody was living embodied, mind, body, soul alignment through the
Yeah.
roots, through the heart and the mind within the cosmos? Like, that's what we're talking about is that you become the medicine. That
Mhm.
takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of healing. That takes a lot of getting out of programming. So, yeah, wild.
Yeah, there's definitely no spiritual bypassing. When you decide that you're gonna
No.
jump into the world of plant medicines or psychedelics for your personal growth and spiritual
Mhm.
journeys or healing, there is no
You
spiritual
know, I'll
bypassing.
tell you,
As much as you think you're gonna spiritual bypass, it just doesn't happen. It
yeah,
won't let you.
I'll tell you, that's why it's so crucial to have a guide. Like when you're
Mhm.
doing a bigger dose, a trained guide
Yeah.
for the set and the setting, but also because the ego is so tricky. And psilocybin is a tricky medicine. There are tricksters that
Mhm.
come up that will
Mhm.
have you detour. And so having the guide there is to
Right.
keep bringing you back to the soul heart space so you
Right.
don't bypass. But
Right.
I mean, even this medicine will come up and go, oh, yeah, let's go this way for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you do miss it. So
Right.
having a guide is crucial for that not bypassing. And then the integration process is also crucial because I always say it's the 90 days after in which we're
Mhm.
rewiring with the neuro, all of the things of neuroplasticity and
Right.
stuff. But even in the journeys, we can bypass and not understand it because it's tricky, you know?
Right. So tricky. That ego is tricky. And what Summer
hmm
said, so for anyone who's listening, is important when she says the set and the setting is your mindset going into it, is that you have a very clear
hmm
intention and that your
hmm
setting is your environment and that you feel completely safe and protected because you're in such a vulnerable state when you're under the influence of these medicines. So you just want to make sure that you are feeling 100% safe and comfortable so that you can be completely open to whatever the experience is going to lead you to. So I just wanted to just as a side note provide that information. So Summer, as some final thoughts, what would you like to share with anyone who is thinking about plant medicines or curious about exploring psychedelics for their personal or spiritual growth and
hmm
healing in this space?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, what are they most curious of? I'm really big on know what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Mhm.
And know the point that you do need a guide. There does need to be a mentor or a teacher because we can only go as far as we've gone. So when you have somebody that is even just a little bit farther, that can be a profound guide for us. So sometimes people are just like, I'm just going to do a hero dose and they've listened to
Right,
Alan Watts. Well, guess what?
right,
Alan Watts' teaching was the guide.
right.
So just know the point of what are you most curious of? Know what you're doing, why you're doing it. And the point when you do need to reach out to somebody to say, hey, this is what I'm going for, but talk to me, teach me, guide me, all of those things.
Mhm. And if anybody wants to reach out to Summer to
Mhm.
connect with her in any way, all of her information will be in the episode notes So definitely feel free to reach out if anything has resonated for you while you're listening to this episode. And
Yeah.
Summer, I just want to thank you so much. It's been really wonderful getting to know you. And thank you so much for sharing your story and for being this beautiful spirit out in the world and being of service and helping other people as well as they move forward in their journeys.
Yes, it's my honor. My dream is that people will have me come to their home and do
Mm,
these journeys, and I'll go home and we
mm.
continue to work with the medicine. And it's a beautiful dream. So thank you for having me on.
No, thank you. I'll talk to you
Mhm.
soon. Take care.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Your support means a lot to me, so please subscribe, download, and share with friends and family. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode, so let me know what resonates for you. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care.
Bye.